Hey, Happy New Year. Welcome. This is Brad Waldron. I'm thrilled you've taken the time out just to click that little button and to listen to a few things that hopefully will make a difference. New Year, we're about 3 weeks into it. Do you know, by this point, 95% of the people that have made resolutions have stopped following through, committing to that sort of commitment that they made, whether it be look for that new job, develop that new career path, to lose a little bit of weight, to work on their fitness, to develop a better relationship. All those things, gone. Now, my thing about it is no resolution is probably a better resolution when it gets to that point. Because today what we're going to talk about is not so much resolutions and how to make this year your best year yet, but it's about how to substantially create habits that by themselves create something far greater, something more meaningful for you. So that you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going to set a resolution, will I not follow through? It's about how can I create a habit that will make a difference so that it becomes just my normal everyday behavior or my focus. And we're going to look at how can we create a why in making this year your best year yet. Now, there's going to be 3 chunks of information that we're going to share with you today. We're going to have a look at review the previous year, how to look at that and take that lessons and those great things through with us into this year. We're going to set ourselves, we're going to have a look at some of the limits that stop us from actually following through. And the third thing we're going to do, and most importantly, we're going to look at a really great, slick process to be able to set some goals that will develop some new habits. But let's have a look at habits first, because when you go to create a habit, there's 3 things that really matter. There's your mindset when you create the habit, there's the skills you need in order to be able to be good at the habit you're trying to create, and the third thing is the sort of degree of knowledge that you have when you perform the habit, whether it be eating more healthily, whether it be exercising more, whether it be developing your career in a certain way. But those 3 things generally matter. But you know what? We can all spend time on those 3 areas. And some of us do it really well. Some of us pick it up really well. Some of us just don't get it or don't follow through with it. And it's those people that don't follow through and don't get it, there's probably 3 reasons why they don't. Equally, those people that do get it, there's probably those same 3 reasons why they do. Let's have a look at each one of those. Number 1, it's whether or not you value developing new habits. So if you're coming to this year making a resolution and you want to stop smoking, for instance, as a personal level, you want to stop smoking, you've got to value something else instead. Instead of valuing the cigarettes, you've got to value something much more important. Might be your health. You know, I was talking to someone only when did I talk to her? Yesterday or the day before, and she said she had one of those smoking sticks that had stuff come out of them like steam, but nothing else. And I said, what are you doing with that? And she goes, well, I just realized that my body was getting so unhealthy, I found it hard walking upstairs. And because of that, it compelled me to want to do something about it, and so I've given up smoking. And so she found a better value which is her health, and that over the need for the cigarette. Now, the second thing that influences your ability to be able to create a new habit is whether or not you've got a goal. Like, for instance, when do most people set goals? It's often at the beginning of the year, which is what we're talking about now. Or it might be when a significant event is further down the pipeline that we can see and we go, aha, I've got a goal to lose weight. I've got a goal to, I want to move. So how can I move? I need to earn more money. How do I earn more money? I look for another job, or I try to go for a promotion inside my own workplace. And that creates a bit of a compelling reason, a goal. So there's a bigger why, there's a vision. And when you've got a vision, it pulls you closer towards the goal. If you don't have a goal, you've got to push yourself towards it, which is much harder because it's harder to get out of bed when there's no real compelling reason. But if you've got a compelling reason to get up because you're fired up about the type of work you're doing, well, in that case, you're going to have more of a pull to get out of bed. You know, when you step out of bed and it's a Monday morning and you're fired up because you're going to go out and do something you really want to do. Well, the goal and value, 2 important parts that will help you create new habits. The third thing that really makes a difference is what you believe. So if you believe in something, if you go, well, listen, I've always wanted to lose weight and I've got a goal and I really value being healthy, but you know what, at the end of the day, my family, we're just naturally big boned. That will stop you from going out there and creating new habits. So in this little workshop we're going to run, I'm going to share with you some ways to be able to move through into this year with a great deal of certainty, with a great deal of focus, and more importantly, a great year of enjoyment. Because the last year, the general thing I was hearing from a lot of people, it was tough. One of the things I became really proficient at, me personally as well, is the good. I learned to use a fire extinguisher probably better than most people, a life-based fire extinguisher. I learned how to run from this meeting to that meeting and be able to cram what would have been 16 hours worth of work into 12, or 12 hours of work into 8. Most people I know don't work 9 to 5. 9 to 5 is sort of like you're slacking. Most people work anywhere between 8 and 8, typically. And so we're losing a bit of opportunity here to be able to reset what really matters to us. Because when you get caught in the thick of thin things, when you get caught constantly following through and acting on things, you stop thinking and you stop taking the time to just reset yourself and ask yourself the question, what matters most? Okay, now this process we're going to go through, it's going to take 10-15 minutes. Not too long, considering the importance and the significance of what it will manifest into and what it will bring you and the value that it will. Now, in order to get the most out of this little session, do me a favor, grab yourself a notebook or grab that workbook that you've downloaded, open it up, and you put together probably some of your favorite little materials. Grab yourself a great pen that you love writing with, or a great couple of markers in the right type of colors. Something that says, hey, this is going to be a little bit different. Create this session as a little significant moment. Get yourself in the right frame of mind, whether for some of us it's pour that glass of wine or crack a can of great soda or whatever it is that you enjoy, but just get yourself into that space. Sitting on a train whilst all the commuters are packed in around you is probably not the best place to do this. You want to put yourself in an optimum state. You wouldn't see a great athlete warming up by the side of the road before he goes on and competes in a game of tennis or something like that, or whether she, about to compete in a swimming event, but she decides to sit in a jacuzzi for a while. It may not be appropriate. Find yourself in an environment that you go, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to focus, I'm going to be free of distractions. The other thing you might want to consider is decide whether you want to do this alone or with someone. Whether you want to do it with a teammate at work and just challenge each other about how you think about this year coming, or you might want to do it with your partner or respected other. And the last thing I'm going to encourage you to think about is avoid editing and judging as we go through this process. This process is pretty solid and it works and it's effective. So don't think about the sort of things you say, oh, I can never do that, or I don't, what happens if I don't have the education to be able to develop my career in that way? Don't worry, don't edit yourself. Just trust the process and flow. Like I said, there's 3 things we're going to cover. We're going to have a look at, and we're going to review last year. We're going to have a look at the sort of beliefs that we're taking into this year. And lastly, we're going to set some really compelling goals. So buckle up and let's get started. Now, if you're going to open up that manual that you've got in front of you, or you're going to open up your book, first thing I'd love you to write is, what did I accomplish in 2012? And just randomly write, just write with free writing or free speech. What did I accomplish in 2012? All the little things, all the things that matter. You might have said, I achieved these big corporate goals, I hit my targets. I lost 2 pounds last year. Some of us might say, I achieved 2 pounds, whichever way you see it. Just do a list, push pause, and write as many things as you can that signify those little achievements, or those big achievements, those things that matter to you. Now, my experience of when I do this is people generally write just a couple of things and they dry up pretty quickly. So just take your time and start to write random things, even if it's a small commitment. Like I managed to go to the gym twice a week for a 6-month period. That's an achievement. Because most people's form of exercise is hopping in a bath, pulling the plug and swimming against the current. So we want to be able to acknowledge and identify the things that we do that make a difference, where we feel as though that we're winning. So we're developing a winning mindset. Take that time now and click, and let's get ready to go when you're ready to go. Right, ready to go to the next one? Second thing we're going to do, we're going to look at the great stuff, and let's have a look at some of the stuff that wasn't so great. So what were some of the biggest disappointments you had? You go, oh, Brad, man, I thought we were going to focus on the positive. We will focus on the positive, but sometimes we're going to learn from some of the disappointments. What were some of the disappointments that you experienced? Maybe that you didn't lose any weight. Maybe you didn't get that pay rise. Maybe you didn't get that step change in your career. Maybe you didn't learn the sort of things that you wanted to learn. Maybe you didn't meet the type of person that you wanted to be with. Maybe that relationship didn't fire up. It sort of smoldered for longer than what it should have. Maybe your life's out of balance. That's probably one of the biggest things I find with great leaders. People that take the time to listen to, I don't know, clips like this, or go out there and spend some time listening to Tony Robbins or listen to Stephen Covey. They're folks that just go, oh man, I'm searching for something, I'm looking for something more. Maybe my life is too much out of balance. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just make that list. Don't worry, trust the process. We're going to get you out of that space if you start. If your list of disappointments is far significantly longer than what you accomplished, we'll talk about that separately offline. Give us a call. But I hope that that's not the case. Let's get a little bit of balance there. So hit that pause button and make that list of the things that, well, they were your disappointments. So the things that just make you go, shucks, or whatever word you would use. Take that time. Hit it now. Okay, so how did you get on with that? I hope it wasn't too painful, but don't worry about that, because let's springboard out of it. Let's take that and move into a better space with it. Because when you focus on the things that were your biggest disappointments, you can do one of two things. You can go, oh man, my life, it just didn't work and it's just too hard. In fact, I think I might just get under the covers again. Or you can say, right, these were my disappointments, but more importantly, what did I learn? What was the significant learn that we can get from it, so that we can springboard into this year with a bit of more of a compelling certainty that these things aren't going to trip us up. You know, we can't change the past, but one thing I do know is that successful people, they learn from the past and they take it forward with them. And so when the situation or the opportunity comes up again, they do something differently. You know, some people, a great old friend of mine called Marvin Orca, he said to me once, listen, do you think, you know, when something bad happened to me, or something I thought was bad anyway, he says, do you think in 5 years you'll look back at now and laugh? And I said, well, I guess so, Marvin. And he said, well, why wait, right? Why wait? So that's my invitation to you. Why wait? Let's have a look at what some of those disappointments may have been. So, you know, if you've got a disappointment, this happened, such and such happened, what did you learn? So for instance, maybe I should confront issues more quicker rather than letting things fester into something far greater. Maybe I should have that conversation with my boss about how I can manage my time more effectively so that I don't work 12 hours a day. How can I share my workload? How can I talk to my partner about the things that were actually on my heart so that we don't get into an argument? I've got to remember to listen when it matters to someone. That's one of the big learns, because if I fell out with my partner a lot last year, maybe because I wasn't listening too well, maybe that's the learn I need to take from it. You know, I put on a few pounds. Maybe I need to make better choices in my food. How do I make better choices? Well, I get home a little bit late, and the thought of cooking something, I just don't take time. Well, okay, let's arrange a system so that before you get home, or you plan in advance, you click onto your favorite grocer and you order just those healthy meals that are ready for you, so when you get home you can just quickly ready to cook. If you haven't tried Charlie Bigham's food, you'd be gravely disappointed that you haven't tried it. Go and click on charliebingham.com and order some of his stuff in, because it's just fantastic, it's healthy and it's vibrant. So that weight stuff doesn't become an issue, because you think, nothing in the fridge, well, I'll just order a pizza. So click now, let's get stuck in. Let's take the biggest disappointments. Let's also take your biggest accomplishments and say, what were the lessons I learned? Let's create a few. Let's just do free writing. What were the biggest lessons? And jot them down. See how many lessons you can get in. Go on, give it a shot. Now listen, I hope your lessons are looking kind of good. I hope you've got some substantial ones there. You'll probably have some that are more meaningful than the other. So let's take step 4 in reviewing this year. Let's have a look at what are the guidelines you want to pull out of those lessons. What do I mean by guidelines? Well, simply this. Have a look at some of those lessons that you've written down there, all of them, and go, let's go 3. What significant 3 do I want to take forward into this year? What are the 3 things that would make a hell of a difference for me? So for instance, one of the lessons is I need to connect with my friends more. I'm going to take that through into this year. I'm going to focus on results rather than activities. I'm not going to get caught up in doing a lot of stuff and getting nothing out of it at the end of the day. I'm going to be results driven rather than rather than activity driven. I'm going to listen more. They're the 3 things I'm going to take into this year and really make it a must for me. Not a should. I should do more of this and I should more do that. Because there's a lot of people in life. A lot of people. My dad used to call them their army personnel because they're gunners. They're going to do this. They're going to do that, or they should do this and they should do that. And pretty soon they just should all over themselves. So let's get ourselves in a mindset of these are the must rules. These are our standards, our minimum standards. One thing I know about athletes, which is a bit of a background where I come from, is that the guys and girls that win make their standards a must. They're the people that get out on the track earlier than anyone else, leave later than anyone else. They're the ones that demand higher standards for themselves. They make their rules must rules, and that is the beginning of brilliance. That is the beginning of mastery. It's not just, you don't see people getting vibrantly healthy and fit just by, well, I think I'll just turn up at the gym and that water cooler is a nice place to hang because there's a lot of pretty people coming by. You don't see many people getting feverishly fit when they do that. Same in our career. Not about working longer, it's about working smarter, focusing on the results. So what are your 3 guidelines that you're going to take through into this year? So click off, have us think, and start to let the pattern emerge. What are your 3 things that matter most to you as lessons taking through into this year? Hey, so how did you get on? So let's just have a quick stop check of what we've done so far. We've had a look at what we've accomplished for the previous year. We've had a look at what our disappointments were. We've also had a look at what our lessons were from our accomplishments and from our disappointments. And the 4th thing we've done is identified 3 key things that we're going to take through and focus on in this coming year. So that's all good for now. I hope you've done really well. If you haven't, just stop, go back and reset and have another shot at it, but I think you should be there. Now let's go into the next part, and the next part is a bit more controversial, and that is a little session around my limits. Because you know what, when you think of people and their limits, limits are like a self-imposed jail that we've created. We hold the key for it, by the way, but it's also a jail where we lock the door. And every time something might go wrong for us, it's almost like we create a new iron bar to put into our own jail cell to reinforce, and we create limits. But how do we transcend them? How do we make better choices? How do we think about ourselves differently so things change? So take, for instance, let's say I wanted a new job, a new role. I feel like a new challenge. And I'm out there and I'm sort of excited about it, a bit anxious about whether or not I'm good enough to go and get something else. And so I send off for a few job applications and I get the interviews. I do the interview. Thanks, but no thanks. But I do another. Thanks but no thanks, and another thanks but no thanks, and probably on the 4th you're getting the thanks but no thanks. That bar that you're going to put in your own jail cell will probably become really reinforced at that point. So the challenge is, how do you think about it differently so it releases the limits, so that the door just naturally opens? It's a hard thing to do, but it's our beliefs and limits like become our invisible hand that guides us through life and tells us what we can and what we can't do. So if you take that example of not getting the role because you're interviewing and you're just getting no's everywhere, maybe it's not your skill. Maybe it's to do with your interview technique. Maybe you need to think, maybe I need to get some coaching on how to interview really well. Maybe I need presentational skills. Maybe I need to work on something in the interview space because I know I can do the roles I'm applying for. I know I can. So how come I'm not getting there? Is it organizational fit? Is it, like I said, it might be just interview skills, something as simple as that. So we've got to find reasons to find that limits aren't true, because the limits become the story we tell ourselves. Well, I'd like to be doing more gym work, but like I've got this knee injury from football that I used to play 25 years ago. And that story was probably true 25 years ago, but 25 years later, your knee probably works really well, and there's probably a lot more stuff you can do at the gym to increase fitness, to increase cardiovascular, to increase your ability to do lower impact aerobic work. Whatever the case may be, you'll get amazed. And tell you what, go and have a look at something. If you're interested in fitness, go and have a look at something called CrossFit. It was something I've only just recently discovered, and I'm just amazed by the resilience and the fitness that CrossFit athletes have. It's completely transformed my view of what exercise can be. I like to play other sports, but I think I'm going to go out there and try this CrossFit because it looks absolutely compelling, and it will reinforce the sport that I am absolutely committed and dedicated to. So Limits, they will determine whether you can or you can't. But what we've got to do is we've got to find ways to melt the bars that we set in front of us, or simply just let go of them to be able to create new experiences, to be able to give us the inkling, the possibility of we can actually achieve something greater, because it's those limits that will stop us from acting on the goals that you're about to set. Do me a favor, write down what are the limits that you've got that perhaps stop you from focusing on the things that you want from this year. I don't have the education, I don't have the health, I don't think my relationship will ever repair. Whatever the case may be, have a look at those limits and ask yourself the question, what is the cost to you of believing those limits to be true? What is the cost to you not actually trying to work and push through those limits, or tear down the door that's in front of you? Because if you don't do that, it's going to stop whatever you try to do. Now, you've done that. Let's have a look at what your focus should be. Before we set any goals, there's something that I think is absolutely compelling and transformational. It's something that I learned many years ago from Dr. Stephen Covey around how to lead your life. And that was around the notion of focus, but most specifically, focus around the roles that you have in life. You look at life, we've got all these different roles that we play. We play roles of family members, friends, as an employee, as a business operator. We have roles called sports people. Whatever the case may be, we've got loads of roles. In fact, I find most people have between 6 to 8 roles in life. And if you were to think about this, what roles do you play? Ask yourself that question. In fact, turn over to the next page and have a look. What roles do I have in life? And let's have a look at how your focus is going in that. So for instance, I have a role called family member. I'm a dad, husband, I'm a brother, I'm a son. I have these different roles in being a family member. I have roles in my work. I have a role called facilitator. It's something I'm doing now. I have a role called business coach, working one-to-one with people. I have a role called client manager. I work with my clients who I love. And these are the roles that I have in my business. Ask yourself this, what are your top 6 roles? And just note them down. Let's spend our space in the life space, or you might want to just contextualize it to work, but write down what are your top 6 roles. By the way, if you've got more than 8, I would encourage you to sort of consolidate a few, just to make sure that you haven't got too many. And a lot of them do overlap, so you can keep them together. So write down your top 6 roles. Press pause, note them down. So how did you get on? What are your roles looking like? You got some good garden variety roles like family member, customer experience director, son, daughter. Do you have any funky roles like explorer, like king of fitness, like awesome, outstanding friend? Whichever way you go, doesn't really matter, but make sure you've got your 6 roles there. And what I'd like you to do is create a continuum next to every role. And on that continuum, it'll go from 1 to 10. And what I'd like for you to do is to review your last year and put a marker on how effective you were at being awesome in that role. So for instance, if I had a role called team leader, and here's my continuum 1 to 10, how good was I in that team leader space? And just put a mark next to it. If I got my next role, it's family member, 1 to 10 continuum, how good was I in that role of being a family member? If I had another role called mate, friend, lover, whatever you think, continuum 1 to 10, how good was I in that role? What would someone be saying if someone was doing a performance review on me as a friend? What would be my performance review? Would it be, could buy more beers? Could try harder, or we didn't even see you in the last 6 months of the year? Same with a family role. What would be a performance review on a family role? Because we do performance reviews at work. The reason we do them is because it's useful. Listen, I need to thank you if you're still listening. That's exceptional that you're still part of this process. I'm very excited. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn all that good work that you've done, reviewing the year, looking at your focus, looking at your limits, and translating that into goals, something meaningful that you can go after. And this one next session that I'm going to share with you, I think is truly transformational, because it does something that most goal setting doesn't do, which is it includes the balance of goals. Because normally when people goal set, they just go, what do I want out of life? I want blah, 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 and it becomes a hodgepodge, or it becomes a focus on just a certain genre of your life. Whereas in focusing and reviewing our roles gives us balance, it gives us depth and breadth, and that is where we make a difference. So get ready for this. Goal setting done quickly, but importantly and valuably. Take your roles for us and write one role per sheet of paper, or one role per half sheet of paper, so 2 roles per sheet. Underneath that, simple as this, write what are your goals for this role? What goals would you love to have? As a friend, what goals would I like to set? As a friend this year, I'm going to go on 2 weekends away with friends. That'd be awesome. I'd love to do that. Boom, knock it down. This year as a friend, I'd like to be a friend actually. I was a horrible friend last year. When I say horrible, I just wasn't there. Unless someone had crisis or something, I was always there. Put on my Superman cape when I was out there. But maybe I was a horrible friend just in the day-to-day stuff. Maybe I didn't put in those calls from time to time and see how people were. Maybe I need to do that. That once a month, I'm going to go through my address book. I had a friend that used to do it religiously. He used to get his address book out, and he'd work in a series of 2 letters per week, and he'd call. So people in his address book from A to B, he would call in that week. People in his address book C to D, he'd call the next week. And I go, geez, Chip, that's just too anal. But for Chip, it helped him keep balance and kept him connected to all his friends, and that mattered. So maybe that's a role. Maybe that's a goal. Same with other things. What about work role? What's your goal for work this year? Is it to hit target? Is it to get better margin? Is it to get that pay rise? To earn that bonus? Is it to learn that new skill? Is it to network with a wider group? Is it to get out into the marketplace and have a look at what's going on in other industries? Is it to go out there and connect with other industries so that you can bring some of their expertise in? What goals do you set? It's not just financial, it's about all the other things that give you more zest for life. What goals do you have for that? What about other roles that you've got? Family member, sports person, explorer. Set goals for all of them. Have a look at the ones that matter. Bring it through. Just write. You'll start to see a pattern emerge, but do not leave out any role. That's the significant part. Set goals for every role. Every role, set goals for. Go on, take the time it needs to do that. Then come back and I'll show you what to do next. So how was that? Set yourself some great goals. When you look at it, you think, oh my God, I'm going to be so busy next year. Well, you're not going to be that busy, because what we're going to do now is we're just going to focus on 5 key goals that we think are the things that matter most. Have a look at all the bits of paper that you've got. Have a look at all the different goals that you've set and ask yourself this one question. What 5 goals matter most to me? If nothing else happens this next year, if I did these 5 things and I achieved these 5 things, life would just be wonderful. What are my top 5? Have a look. Hit your pause and just scan through them and just ring fence the ones that matter, and then weed it back to your top 5. What I do is I just go, what's more important, that or that? That is. What's more important, that or that? What's more important, that is. What's more important, that or the next one? And just work through by significance of importance. Easy process to do, but you'll end up with 5. Go on, get on with it, see how you go. How do those top 5 look? Are they compelling? Are they things that would make you happy? Are they things going, geez, I'd love that. That would be awesome. If my life was like that, life would be just fabulous. Well, if that's the way you feel, you've set 5 great, compelling goals. How did we get there? We reviewed the previous year. We had a look at what your accomplishments were. We had a look at what your disappointments were, the lesson learned, and the lessons you're bringing forward that you can focus on to make sure that you don't commit the same issues or tragedies again. We've had a look at clarity, what our limits are. We've had a look at what our focus is by checking out what our values are and what our roles are. Now we've got 5 key goals. That's a pretty good accomplishment. Now that you've got 5 goals, how do you bring them to life? Well, that's the big question. Execution is everything. We've got to make them wildly important. We've got to translate lofty goals into actions, and we've got to be able to create a scorecard. The easiest way that I found to do that is I'm going to set myself monthly goals to chart my progress. Bit procedural, but it helps. It's a bit like going to the gym. If you're not counting what you're doing, you're not really sure if you're getting fitter or not. It's like losing weight. If you're not hopping on scales, you don't know if you're losing weight. Yeah, I feel a bit lighter today. No, that's not really the way of going about it. We've got to set ourselves a scorecard and go after it. Share your plan with someone. Here's another thing. Share your plan with someone. Maybe with your spouse, with someone at work, maybe even with a boss. Someone that will hold you accountable. Not someone that will just go, yeah, bugger that, come on, let's go down to the pub. No. Share your plan and ask them to be accountable for you. Get support. Ask the right people. Get people that can help you. Go and be a nuisance to someone. Go and knock on that do not disturb sign that someone has and says, hey, I need some help. Could you show me how to do this? Because I've got a goal this year. Create value for them. Schedule a day every month where you review your goals. Schedule a day. Make that commitment. Because do you know what? 95% of the world don't do this. Be the top 5%. Be the difference. Don't be the statistic. Be the difference. That's the challenge you should have. What other things could you do? You could so if they're the things that you can do to go out there and make a difference, to be able to hold yourself accountable, schedule a date to review, get yourself a coach, share it with someone to ask you to be accountable. Put a plan together to go after these 5 goals. Don't try to achieve them all in the space of the first or second month. Stagger it out so that you've got something to work through and work to. Don't give up if it doesn't happen in the first month or 2. That's why most people give up their New Year's resolution, because they go out there, stop smoking, that's what I'm not going to do, and then you hang out with a couple of friends, grab a ciggy. It's the next thing that happens. Just take your time, stay committed, stay the course. There's 2 pains in life, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. I'd prefer the pain of discipline. That's the space that I'd probably like to operate in. Now that we've done that, we're going to put it all together and we're going to create what I call an accountability plan, or we're going to create a compass. Here we go. We're going to set out a couple of points. Number 1, what's my annual plan? What am I going to achieve? Number 2, what are my guidelines? We're going to put it together. So if you put my plan for the year, what are the guidelines? What are your guidelines? Those 3 things that you've put forward from the previous year that you're going to focus on based on your achievements and your disappointments. Annual plan, what are my guidelines? What's my new paradigm? How am I going to see myself? So those limits you had? Right, I'm not someone that doesn't achieve some. I'm stuck that when I commit, I make things happen. Set yourself out a new paradigm. What are my roles? List your roles. Create my key roles in life and my major focus as a consequence. Then nail your 5 goals. Nail your 5 goals underneath that, and we're almost there, because the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is to write your own commitment statement. What on earth is a commitment statement? It's a little pledge to yourself. I'm not saying I hereby solemnly swear, but something like that. What's your commitment to yourself? It might be something like, I am committed to do whatever it takes to achieve these 5 goals and to hold myself accountable. I'm going to do that by sharing my goals with my lover, wife, spouse, respected other, so that they can hold me truly accountable. By achieving these goals, it will mean that I'll have more balance in my life, more time for me, and more time for the things that matter. And that is my commitment. Whatever it is, that's just an example that I gave you. Make the example yours, but have it come from here. The longest journey we'll ever have to make in life is 12 inches. When we combine here to here, that's the longest challenge. If we can connect that journey, everything else works. Because I know what I want up here, I know what I want down here, but I've got to make them fuse together. And we could do that by creating a commitment plan. Good luck, do well, make this year an absolute masterpiece. Make it something that's truly something, and when you get to this time next year, you think, oh man, what a year that was, for the right reasons. Good luck, God bless, be outstanding.